Yeah, so I grew up in northern New Hampshire, in Littleton, New Hampshire, and went to high school there. After graduating from Littleton High School, I went to Bates College, and then after Bates College, I went to Northeastern Law School. After Northeastern Law School, I took 2 bar exams and immediately started my career as an attorney. And as quickly as I just rattled off the schools and the bar exams, that's how fast I tried to do all those things. I didn't really, I hate cliches, but there was no point that I stopped and smelled the roses. It was a mission to get through law school and to get the job that I eventually got. And the day I got in my first law office when I was 25 years old, I remember distinctly walking in, seeing my desk, seeing my computer, looking out the window, and thinking, well, I guess this is it, and then I die. After 9 years of practicing corporate law at the firm in Boston, later clerking for a federal court judge, and having various positions in-house at some major companies, the substance abuse caught up with me. And some people think that substance abuse starts when you're 17, 18 years old. That wasn't the case for me. I drank like a normal college student, and then when I was in law school, like a normal law school student, similar to a lot of my friends, not dissimilar from a lot of people in Boston at the time. It really escalated after I got out of law school and realized that there were no more finals, there were no more exams, there was no more bar exams. It was just life, and it was very open-ended. And I thrived on structure to that point, whether it was the structure of semesters in high school and then college and law school, the structure of athletic seasons, preseason, the regular season, then playoffs, and then there's always something after that was predictable, and there was a defined metric of success, whether it be grades or a scoreboard. When I got out of law school, it was completely different. It was just very, very fluid, very amorphous, and without that structure, I didn't have my own internal compass to measure how I was doing, and without that organization, without that structure, without that inner compass, without that knowledge of self, I turned to alcohol primarily, and the substance abuse was rooted in not really knowing who I was. I never gave myself a chance to know who I was, to learn who I was, because I was so focused on external benchmarks, these fabricated, perceived external expectations. All my friends expect me to do X, Y, and Z, so I have to do X, Y, and Z. My parents expect me to do A, B, and C, so I have to do A, B, and C. And none of those were actually true. It was a warped narcissism, thinking all these people expect so many things from me. They will all be so let down if I fail. How could I do that to everybody? That was a terribly narcissistic way of thinking. So once that all crumbled, I found myself in treatment, in rehab, and detox, and then rehab again, because it took time. Like finding yourself takes time, and it was difficult, but it was very worth it. And I knew practicing law was not in my immediate future. I didn't want to do that anymore, at least not for the time being. And I knew I needed to work in recovery. So after I got out of treatment, I just started scanning New Hampshire for entry-level jobs in treatment. And the first one that gave me a shot was a sober house in Derry, New Hampshire. And they said, yeah, you can start next month. It's $10 an hour. You'll be working random days from 4 p.m. till 2 a.m. and then maybe the next day from 7 a.m. till and it was $10 an hour with ridiculous hours after working at the top floor of the Prudential Center. So it was a change in view from my office, to say the least. And and it was without a question the best job I've ever had. The people I worked with, the connections I made, not professional connections, the human connections I made working in dairy were second to none, the best experience of my life. And I did that for about a year, and then decided to take further my experience working in recovery by going to Montana and working at the oldest existing wilderness treatment program in the country. And in its own way, that was the best job I'd ever had. And that season came to an end, and I came back here and continued working in the recovery community at a treatment facility in North Conway for a time, and then eventually doing my own thing, taking people into the woods because the wilderness was big for me. And that was very fruitful, and the connections I made there were tremendous. But ultimately, I realized that taking people one-on-one into the woods and talking through a process was not developing the community that I knew was necessary in really stabilizing the community, the recovery community in New Hampshire. And that's when I realized strength and fitness is a way to do that.